It is very important even for Web3 companies because most of the attacks start from the phishing phase. It starts from the Web2 side.
Mudit Gupta with us, the CTO of Polygon Labs.
FBI actually took it down. FBI sent me an email, sent me a notice. The notice was actually relatively friendly. That was my first interaction with the FBI.
What are your thoughts on AI on the security side?
AI is finding good bugs. Yes, it's not perfect. There are false positives. Some of the bugs have been in the code base for years and years, 3, 4, 5 years.
I've never heard that before, asking like a finance question in a tech interview.
I'm very excited about getting the open money stack out. It's always exciting when you see like things working, when you see an actual dollar moving from one place to another.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Web3 Security Podcast. Super excited today. We have Mudit Gupta with us, the CTO of Polygon Labs. Quick intro on Polygon Labs. Polygon Labs develops Polygon, including Polygon Proof of Stake, one of the world's largest blockchains. They've done 6.4 billion transactions, 2 trillion on-chain transfers, and they've got a really cool payments-focused roadmap, which I'm sure we'll get to. But thanks for joining today, Mudit.
Thanks for the intro, Jack. Super happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I always love learning about your background, going as deep as you want to go, as early as you want to go, like how, where did you grow up? How did you first get into computers?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that goes way back. So, I grew up and I was raised in Delhi, India. That's where all of my early part of my life has been. So with computers, actually, I've been involved since super early. So when I was 4 years old, my dad got his first computer at his home, at our home for work purposes. So that was at that time like a super expensive thing that the kids were not supposed to touch. So that made me curious. Why can't I touch this thing? What does this do? What happens here? And I think that curiosity just continued throughout my life. I was always one of those kids where if you tell me you shouldn't do this, then I'm gonna definitely do that. So tried to get my hands on the computer any way I can, whenever mom or dad weren't around or whatever, just because I was not allowed. I didn't know what computers do or anything, but that slowly, as I figured out things on my own, I've been self-taught most of my life, at least for the computer side. I have a bachelor's degree, but uh, I learned everything that I learned was just on my own from curiosity. So yeah, started playing around with things. I started with actually Basic as my first language when I was, I think, 6, 7. And since then, I've done web development. I did my own startup when I was 14. That was my first startup. Super exciting stuff. It actually ended up getting hacked when it picked up. At the peak, I was making $10,000 a month or so. No, not super big, but for a kid in India, that was life changing money. Obviously, I was a kid, I had no idea about security. I had no idea what exactly I'm doing. So the website got defaced. It got turned into a phishing website. FBI actually took it down. FBI sent me an email, sent me a notice to my hosting provider, everyone. The notice was actually relatively friendly. That was my first interaction with the FBI. They knew it's not me doing it, but it got it was hacked by a group they were tracing. So they gave some details, not too much, but that is what got me excited about cybersecurity. Since then, I've been mainly focused on cybersecurity alongside development. The first task I had on cybersecurity front was just figuring out who exactly did this to my startup, to my website. So yeah, that took me into a learning curve. Did a lot of forensics there. Then got into blockchains a few years later, doing similar thing. Actually started with Monero because then I had a task from a client. Basically, they paid a ransom due to a ransomware attack over Monero to the attackers. They got their access back and everything all good, but they just wanted to see if I could trace the payment. Now, this was my first like encounter with Monero. So when the task came up, I was, yeah, sure, like I can help, I can trace. Then I started learning about Monero, and I was like, okay, no, I can't. This is actually private. But that got me excited about blockchains. I worked on Monero core for a bit. Actually worked on CryptoNote, the underlying protocol. Then worked on Bitcoin a bit. Then this was 2013. 2014, heard about Ethereum, started looking into it. I did some research around proof of stake in 2016, 17, how to move from proof of work to proof of stake and so on. And then, yeah, like the ICO boom started in 2017 and everyone wanted developers. So started like writing code as well. Wrote some like ICO contracts and things like that. Led blockchain development at Polymath, led protocol development at SushiSwap, and now, yeah, leading engineering as CTO at Polygon Labs.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I was looking back at your website and some of the articles you were writing in 2018 on Solidity, gas optimization, and that kind of thing. What would you say are, I mean, that's pretty, even in the space of a long time. What are some of the stories or like notable changes in the last 8 years since you were doing it in 2018?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest change is that now it is much more like standardized and easier to get into. Like people wouldn't ostracize you, or like it just is a much better time, or much easier time to get into the space. Because back then, 2017, 18, when I started Solidity development, like I had to build most of the tools myself to get things working. Like if I want test coverage for my code base, yes, there is one repo that does test coverage but is broken. So I need to first fix the tool that can generate test coverage so I can have test coverage for my contracts. Like even the basic tooling was missing from the ecosystem then. So back then, doing Solidity development was like 20% writing Solidity code and 80% creating tooling for it, which now everyone uses. So that was sort of definitely interesting work, but sort of different. Then, like, I would say after 2021, things got more stabilized. Then, since 2021 till like end of last year, I would say it was more focused towards, yeah, just writing smart Solidity, getting things to work, and being efficient with it, and so on. There was a small period of like mega, like just optimize everything right in assembly and so on. Didn't stick for too long, but there was when the gas was super high. That was one period. Now, I think with AI coming in, the game has again changed completely in the last 3 months. Um, the AI can write every single line of code. Like now, you just have to command it properly. Now, the thing with that is, first, like the models themselves are super impressive. Claude Code, Codex, they're super nice. Even if you start playing with them without any training, you would be impressed by like, oh, they can do a lot. But first time you use them, you probably wouldn't feel like, okay, no, they can replace my like coding time or whatever. They're not that good. That's what it feels like when you get started. But then you start using them more and more and more, and you start to learn how to use them properly, how to guide them in the right direction, what specifics you need to give them for it to like write good code. And now I'm at a point where I can say like 95% of the code that I'm going to write is going to be written by AI. There might be 5% which I just fine tune by hand, but probably less, and it's going to go to zero by the end of this year. That's what I totally feel like.
And is this Solidity code? What kind of code are we talking about?
All code. In fact, AI is not as good with Solidity code just because there's less training material, but it is so good that I can comfortably say that even like on the Solidity side, within 1 year, 100%, almost 100% of the code is going to be AI written.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw you tweeted about hiring, I think it was like an AI process manager or someone to help. Can you say more about exactly what that role was?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a new role. Actually, it has just been closed. We made the hire, but the
Oh,
role
nice.
title was staff AI productivity engineer, developer productivity engineer, actually. So the purpose for this person and the goal for this hire is that they come in, they educate our like development team, engineering team into using AI, how good the like properly helping people use AI better, and so on. Spreading education, that's one. Then the other is creating workflows. So, like the idea is, I'll give you one sample workflow we are building at Polygon Labs. So, the idea is that whenever there is a feature that needs to be implemented in our web app side of things or similar repos, the product manager will come in this shared channel between our AI agents, engineers, and product people. We'll just talk about what needs to happen, what needs to change. The AI is going to take that. It's going to convert that into a proper PRD sort of feature request by asking like questions to the PM. Like oftentimes it will ask 20, 30, 40 questions before you get the PRD, because we have tuned it to be very specific and like ask wherever there is ambiguous thing, ask for specificity. This is the biggest ask like developers have, just give us specifications or exact things to do. So the AI has back and forth with the PM. You get a proper PRD done. The PRD then gets reviewed by actually multiple AIs to make sure things make sense. An engineer reviews it as well if it's doable and so on. If it gets approved, it goes into engineering planning phase, where again the AI takes the PRD, creates an engineering plan, how to do this, what changes to make, and so on. Goes into the same process that there are questions asked to the engineers this time. The engineers answer, it's a back and forth, and then you end up with an execution plan. The execution plan then gets finally reviewed by a bunch of agents and humans, and then it gets executed by agents completely. And this plan, when it's executed, it is almost always a one shot. Like the AI kills it on the first try. There are some changes you might need, some smaller things you can ask and it can tweak, so on. But since our plan is so detailed and so well thought out, the execution almost never fails. That's the good thing about AI. If you plan, execution won't fail. Now, these things you can do in parallel a lot. Like you don't, it's not a blocker. Like the PM is not waiting for the execution to finish. The PM spends their like half an hour to answer all of the questions, probably less, and then moves on to the next thing. The engineer spends half an hour, moves on to the next thing. And with just that time commitment, you have work done, which would have otherwise taken multiple days to have this back and forth between PM and engineering and writing code. So it's these sort of workflows this hire is going to come in, like make them better, make more of these, and so on.
Oh, wow. So you're doing all this even before this person came in.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I realized, okay, like at first I just started doing this, and then I realized, oh, like if I have a dedicated person who can do these, we can go so much faster, because now our bottleneck is actually creating these workflows. I have like 100 other ideas that I can have workflows for, but we need someone to implement those.
Wow. That's so interesting. That is really crazy. Um, how long have you been operating this way, and what models do you use?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is not the only way we operate. It's just this workflow is more in a testing phase. But on the AI side, like we have our company has given Claude subscription, ChatGPT subscriptions, Cursor subscriptions, GitHub Copilot subscriptions, basically all of them to our engineering team. They can pick and choose whatever they want for at least, I would say, 2 years now. So people have been playing around with things and getting familiarized with it and so on. Like some people use more than others, but at the exec level, the decision was made to push it more and have these workflows end of last year, because that's when the new models came out, Claude 4.5, Opus 4.5, and Codex 5.2. That when they came out, they were a game changer. Like they completely, like AI tools, coding tools went from like something you take help from or advice from and do code reviews to someone who can just write code for you, write good code for you. So that's when the paradigm shift certainly happened. And yeah, for last 2 to 3 months, we have been pushing more and more towards AI.
Wow. So do you see yourself, based on your background, do you see yourself more as a developer or more as a security engineer, security expert?
I honestly see myself as a generalist. That's I think it's unique. It's good. It's fun, and the reason for that is like even since the start, like I started my own startup, was an entrepreneur when I was 14, and like I was doing marketing, I was doing ops, I was doing like everything. So I had to obviously from engineering perspective as well, like back end, front end, everything was created by me. So I've always been someone who just loves tinkering with things, who is curious. And over the time as well, like when I got into blockchains, I started as a researcher. Like I was mostly researching things, creating new ideas, creating new proposals, and so on. Then I did development. From there, I got back into security for blockchains because basically after the DAO hack, that's when again like it caught my attention. Okay, like blockchains also need security. So yeah, I've been doing a mix of things since then. Um, yeah, I just feel like I'm a generalist. I'm not the best person at either things, to be honest. Like I can find experts at specific things, and that's my hiring philosophy as well. Like if I'm hiring someone for a particular job, my bar is that they must be better than me at that thing. Like otherwise, it's not a good hire. So that's the way I tackle things.
Interesting. So I wanted to connect that back to, obviously you're using AI on the development side. What are your thoughts on AI on the security side, like AI auditing for Solidity or another language?
AI for security is super nice. Now, there are things to understand about that. One is it's not going to replace humans, not yet at least. But if you're not using AI to review your code and try to find, like having AI agents finding bugs in your code base, you're missing out. Like there's no reason to not do it. Like it costs a few dollars a run, can be a couple $100 maybe, but it's totally worth it. You find so many things there, and better tools are getting built for it. In fact, I have actual data that it is working, because I can tell you, like, we run one of the biggest bug bounty programs in the space, but simply because one, we do pay out a lot, and two, we have a wide coverage. We have so many products that there is something for everyone to find bugs on. We saw a very sharp uptick in total number of bug reports submitted, starting from about August last year, as the AI started getting good. Now, yes, most of the reports are false positives. So let's say our bug reports increase by 10x. Now the thing is, yes, like in that 10x, 80% increase is false positives, garbage. But the actual valid reports also more than doubled. So it means that AI is finding good bugs. Yes, it's not perfect. There are false positives, but AI is finding real bugs. And some of the bugs have been in the code base for years and years, 3, 4, 5 years, and have been just dug up because of AI. So yeah, AI is definitely helping. It is finding bugs. In fact, now we are getting so many bug reports that we had to create our counter AI agent, when we essentially have AI fighting AI over there, where as soon as a bug report comes to us, our AI triager takes it, and yeah, verifies it on the code base. It ensures, it verifies if it's valid or not. It does all of the triaging for us, and just gives us a summary. AI is definitely, like, on both sides, it's helping a lot in finding bugs and also making software more secure to avoid having bugs.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. If that is close to a 10x in number of bug reports, that is really insane. Can you trust your AI triager? Like, obviously the AI triager, if it makes a mistake in an important bug, like that can be problematic if a human doesn't review it. So how have you thought about that?
This, while like it is never the only thing that triages. So on our all our bug bounty platforms, we also have triaging services from those companies. So Immunify provides their triaging services. We use HackerOne for Web2 stuff. They provide our triaging services. So both triage these, and if it gets escalated to us, if either of them find it valid. That sort of is our way. And obviously the fallback is whenever like if the report gets closed as invalid, or we reply as it's invalid based on the automatic triage or whatever, if the submitter really feels it's valid, they will reply back and tell you, no, this is, you have missed this, it's valid or whatever. It has happened in one case where we closed one report thinking it's not valid based on our AI triage, but the researcher replied, no, your bottom, I mean, we add details that you missed this angle and that this is why it is valid. And they were right. We looked at it manually, and yes, then we reopened it, fixed it, and so on. So yes, there is that chance, but unless the other person is also AI, which just says, okay, they closed it, I move on to next, I was just spamming, you will catch it.
Yeah, makes sense. So you got some supervision going on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw that uptick in August. I saw I think it was October when the balancer hack happened. You tweeted about it a little bit. Do you think the balancer hack or do you think AI was involved in the balancer hack? And if so, how much?
I mean, that's for anyone to guess, but I mean, it's an old code base that just got a bug found. And I can tell you, like, from my experience, at least since August, on our code bases at least, we've found, usually we only get bug reports about new issues, like new code that we have released. But since August, we have gotten multiple reports about very old code, like old code in Geth, in P2P libraries, or old code in smart contracts. It's so that is a sort of a sign that AI is doing things, because it's starting from scratch, it's reviewing everything. Humans tend to just review the newer stuff because they believe the older probably doesn't have bugs. So that's a sign that AI was used for it, but obviously there's no other like actual proof for it. They might have used it, they might not have.
Yeah, makes sense. I think you said something like DeFi hack season is here and bridge hack season is coming or is about to be here. Do you still think that? Do you still think we're about to see like an explosion of exploits?
There have been sort of an increase in number of contracts being hacked on chain, but luckily on the smaller side, like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a pop. So if you look at if you subscribe to one of these services which sends out alerts, there are lots of alerts coming around. But luckily, the old protocols which have a high amount of volume and so on are doing better, are safer. And I mean, there was a $3 million bug bounty paid out like day before yesterday by Immunify. So that must be an active thing in a big protocol. I don't know which. But yeah, so there are now definitely more exploits being found out, but luckily on the smaller scale. The bigger things have like they have this thing of protection as well, that you have to be really malicious to pull off like a large heist. This is why like these small time hackers, even they have some like ethics, like in the sense, like if it's a $500 million hack, they would rather take 5 million bug bounty than risk going after 500 million. So
Right.
that's why like you rarely see like individuals, some are unhinged, but you rarely see individuals going after larger attacks. Larger attacks are more state sponsored and so on. And we have not seen, luckily not seen too much evidence of state sponsored attackers using AI as extensively. So we are not there yet.
Yeah, but it's possible that it's coming, I guess.
Hopefully not. Hopefully now we have time now to use the AI for defensive side.
Yeah.
Like patch everything before the attackers get wind of it. Otherwise, yeah.
Do you think so? I think it was OpenAI that you now have to almost KYC or give your email so that you can access cybersecurity queries on GPT 5.3 Codex. What do you think about that policy? Do you think that's going in the right direction?
I can see both sides on it. So I don't completely agree with it, but I can tell you they in fact have an even more advanced cybersecurity model that they've made available to some security researchers on like an invite only basis. And that is why they are going into this direction where they are collecting data before they give access to this model. Because from my experience, this is the strongest security model I've used like so far. So it is very dangerous in the wrong hands. That being said, I feel like I generally am not a big fan of KYC and filtering that way anyway, because it's relatively easy to bypass. So I have those doubts and problems with KYC always, but otherwise I can definitely say it. The AI is getting to a point where if the defensive side doesn't keep up, the offense can have an edge.
Yeah, makes sense. As a CTO of Polygon Labs, you have so many different, I guess, attack vectors to worry about. What do you see as the biggest area of security that you spend time on?
Yeah, it's a big attack surface for us. We have so many products, but the most critical one is the blockchain itself. And even on the blockchain, it's making sure the assets are safe. We spend a lot of time there. Any change that goes into the blockchain itself is audited and heavily reviewed by everyone and so on. So that's the most critical area. The most exploited area is the smart contracts. So that's another thing we really focus on, because like, even though it's maybe it's worth saying, maybe not in public, but the reality of the current ecosystem is that there are way more bugs on the ZK side of things than they are on the smart contract side of things. So anyone, like, if you are trying to exploit an L2, you have many more ways to exploit the ZK side than the smart contract side. The reason it doesn't happen in practice is the ZK is too complex. I can maybe count the number of people who can exploit it on my fingers. Like, it just is way too complex. So we don't have the expertise there to like for these like normal attackers to pull off. But that's really something that I sometimes lose sleep over. It's a big attack surface.
Interesting. And on the ZK side, it's because it's so complex and it's so new. And so that's why there's just way more bugs in it, you think?
Yeah, 100%. It has not been hardened enough as the smart contract side have. So there are definitely 100% more bugs there. It's just that they are harder to exploit. So in practice, I don't expect them to be exploited in public, but they are there. You get bug reports, you find them later, you get audits, like they are there.
Yeah. That's scary. Okay. How much time? So as CTO, obviously you're in charge of all the development aspects. How much time do you spend on security?
So I mean, security is sort of like a passion for me. So I do spend a good chunk of time on it, but like, I don't do the groundwork anymore. We have a dedicated security team. In fact, we have two security teams, one handling the applications and the other operations. They handle security completely, so I don't need to be involved on the groundwork. It's more that just because it's so exciting, like, I'm spending maybe 10 to 20% of my time, I would say, just looking at security things.
Yeah, makes sense. Can you say more about those two security teams? Like, how big are they? What kind of people are you hiring on those teams for people listening?
Yeah, for sure. So we have two teams. One is security, one is security operations, and the other is application security. So the security operations team is sort of something you would see basically in a non Web3 company. Web3 companies are very bad at having this, so that's why you don't see it usually. But any regulated company, any large enterprise, you would definitely have a security operations team. This team is the one that makes sure all of your infra, AWS, GCP, all of that is secure. Your domains are secure. Your people are secure. The devices you're using, the laptops and everything, they are secure. You have done phishing awareness trainings and things like that. They respond to incidents around these objectives and so on. So this is all of the traditional side of security. We have, I think, 4 people in this team right now. So That's your Web2 security side of things. It is very important even for Web3 companies because most of the attacks, even in Web3, start from the phishing phase. It starts from the Web2 side. There have been relatively fewer smart contract hacks in the recent time. So it is an important team, but gets ignored by most teams. So just a call out for everyone to focus on your basics as well. But yeah, that's one. Then we have the application security team, which is what most of the Web3 companies focus on, which also is what the auditors do. But we take it to like a one more level. This application security team, from a high level, their objective is to make sure all of the applications we are building, including smart contracts, the blockchain itself, those are all safe. They don't have bugs and security issues. Um, that's their objective. So obviously they do audits for all of the code bases. They do security reviews, PR reviews, and so on. But they're also involved in the architecture stage itself. So instead of security being involved when things are already done and they just can say, oh, you could have done it in this way, or this is not as safe. They are involved from day zero to make sure things are being built in a safe way. So that's why we have that in-house security team. They have full context about the products. And yeah, they are responsible for making sure the products are safe.
Yeah, makes sense. What security practices inside Polygon have you kind of instituted that might surprise an outsider?
I mean, I would just talk about things that should not be surprising, but I can tell you, like, most of the people still don't do, which is enable 2FA everywhere, like including Telegram, including WhatsApp. Like every day I'm seeing so many people having their Telegram hacked because they don't enable 2FA. Like sure, SIM swapping and all of those attack vectors exist. You can be phished and whatever. Yes, but just enable 2FA and you will be safe. So that's one thing. The other is using hardware wallets. Like many people still just use MetaMask without a hardware wallet or Rabi without a hardware wallet. And in fact, sometimes I've seen when I tell people to use a hardware wallet, they will buy a ledger, they will set it up, and then the key ledger gives them to write down. They just import it in MetaMask directly. And sometimes they feel like, okay, now I have a hardware wallet, so I have that safety. But it doesn't work that way. So getting the message across to use hardware wallets properly and writing down your private key properly is like another thing people really do, but it's something we like yeah, it's in mind of everyone who joins Polygon. They go through all of the security material that covers things like this. Phishing awareness training, very generic, but everyone has to go through it. We do send phishing tests to our employees. We like last, in fact, we do send AI assisted ones as well. Like few months ago, we had like a deep fake video made of our CEO sent out to all of the employees, just asking for some basic access. And yeah, it caught a lot of people off guard because when it's like, okay, it's a video message, it's it sort of wasn't expected. So things like that we have been training people for, but yeah, mostly all just the security basics. I mean, one thing which might surprise or is controversial between the Web3 teams um, is use of endpoint security software, so MDM and things like CrowdStrike and so on. We enforce that on all our work computers. It obviously comes with its own trade-offs, but that's something we feel like is essential for the general audience to have on their work computers. For signing and very critical things, you can have air gap devices, but for like almost everyone, it's mandatory to have uh, MDM and ADR involved on their work computer.
Yeah, got it. No, that's a good list. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, I think you tweeted a couple months ago about the universal private dollar hack, and it was like their deployment script got front run when it was deploying smart contracts. How do you think teams should approach deployment checks? Do you think devs can do them, or is it something where you really should have to use an external auditor or internal auditor?
Yeah, I mean, the devs should definitely do it, but you should have an additional layer that verifies it. So within Polygon, our internal security team verifies it. After the deployment of contracts, everything is first verified by the security team. The ownership is transferred, verified again, and then we can say, okay, this thing is live. We can connect it to our systems and so on. It is very critical because lots of things can go wrong, especially like how flimsy the tooling is for Web3 deployments. You just have to verify. Like if your device is compromised for whatever reason, you wouldn't even know you deployed a malicious thing, or someone might front run your transactions and you wouldn't know if you're not verifying. So things like this, you just have to have verification for. For smaller teams that don't have dedicated security teams, they should ask their auditor to do. And I've been pushing all of the auditors to do it for free. Like if they are auditing something, they should verify the deployment as well. Otherwise, the audit report also doesn't mean anything. The protocol can flaunt, hey, audited by this company, here's the audit report, and the contracts you're using might be just completely something else. So like I've been pushing these audit companies to offer it as well. I think most of them are right now. And yeah, it's a very critical step.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it's still very, very nascent as far as I can tell in the, Web3 protocol space in terms of auditors doing those deployment checks. But obviously we're pushing teams to do that. What are your thoughts on no deploy Fridays? Is this for smart contracts only? Are we not doing any PRs on Fridays? What are your thoughts on that?
Generally, I avoid large changes on Fridays, just because like it's not just because my team won't be very available over the weekend. We have on call 24/7, so I know I will have engineers if anything goes wrong and so on. But most of the teams, most of the external dependencies, our clients and everyone, they would not be available on the weekend either. So it becomes a more panicky situation for them. Or if we have a dependency on someone, then it becomes a panic situation. So like if your system is contained within just your teams, and you can have availability after the patch, sure, deploy on Friday, that's fine. But for systems that impact external teams, which might not have coverage on weekends, or systems which depend on external dependencies, which might not have coverage on weekends, just don't do it. Like do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Even Thursday is okay-ish, but usually I target Wednesdays for my releases. We take Mondays and Tuesdays for the final checks and everything. And Wednesday it goes live. Thursday and Friday we verify everything again, and hopefully all is good.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So you've talked about a few different aspects of what Polygon uses in terms of the security stack. Things that employees have to have on their laptop, having 2 different types of bug bounty programs running, obviously using audits. What else do you see as part of like the core security stack at Polygon?
AI is also part of the core security stack now. Like every word we are writing through passes at least 3 AIs to review. One at the, like when it's being written, also it goes through AI. To at a PR stage, every PR is reviewed by AI, and then the security team when they're auditing code. So AI is very critical there. Otherwise, security, honestly, most of it comes from the mindset the developers have. You need to have your engineers have the security mindset for them to write secure code. Like if you are only playing a catch up game and finding errors and fixing them, you're gonna miss things. If your engineers themselves, they are in the best place to write safe code. If they are themselves thinking about attack vectors and trying to write safe code, you would have a much better time. You will have much safer code base. So that's also where we spend some of our time, just making sure everyone is thinking things in the same way.
How do you encourage or train that security mindset?
Honestly, it's a culture thing. I feel like we have tried trainings, we have created material, we've done lots of things, and they help to some extent. But the biggest impact has been from the culture. Like even if there is one security champion in the team, they can uplift everyone, because nobody wants to be called out for writing unsafe code, for example. So if there is one person who takes care of security very seriously, they review everything, they help people upskill, they help people think about things in a certain way. It it just uplifts the whole team, and then the whole team thinks from that angle. It's really that, like, you need to have one leader or one champion, and they can uplift everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Do you think in your role as CTO, your security background has been helpful? Do you think it's something that most CTOs of large blockchains should have? How do you think about it?
Oh, it is 100% helpful. And like, you might, from the outside perspective, you might think that having a security mindset would make me go slow, be cautious, and just because like of the risks. But the opposite is true, actually. It allows me to manage risk much better, because I know where my risks are, what the mitigations are, and what risks I can take. Like, if I didn't have this knowledge, I would just always be cautious and just wouldn't take risk, wouldn't go fast. I maybe I wouldn't even be using AI for a lot of things that I'm doing right now. But with the security background, I know the trade-offs, I know what my risks are, how I can mitigate them, how can I like just partition things, which really helps me like go fast on things where we can take risk, and obviously slow down on things where we need to.
Interesting, interesting. Do you communicate that? I don't know if it's to your CEO or to other aspects of the team. Do you communicate like, hey, we're taking these risks here, I'm aware of them, but we're doing it so we can go faster? Or how do you kind of balance it?
Oh yeah, for sure. So even from a culture perspective, it comes the opposite direction. It's not even me usually telling my engineers that we are taking risk here. The way we work is like, whenever the engineers are working on a feature, they will highlight the risks to me, and they will say like, we are building this, but there is this risk. What should we do? And I can make the call, like, should we take on the risk? Should we find some other solution, or so on? And that's how we work. Like, all of the risks get highlighted, all of the risks get noted down, their mitigations noted down, so we are tracking it. I give a summary to the CEO and Sandeep, Mark and Sandeep, so they know what risks we are taking. Sometimes it makes them uncomfortable, but the thing is, they trust me, so we go with it. So yeah, we have taken risks that like someone without a security background wouldn't have taken, just because they don't know or understand the mitigation or the impact of it. And also there are some things where I have slowed down because I can see a risk which someone without a background may not be able to see.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. It sounds like you put a lot of trust in your engineers on the security side. Obviously, you're trying to build that culture. When you're hiring engineers, is this something that, is security something that doesn't really matter when you're hiring an engineer in terms of their background, and it's something that you kind of instill with your culture over time? Or do you look for specific, security backgrounds?
So we don't, if it's a general engineer role, having a security background is definitely plus, but we don't go out of our way to find people with the security background. What I go out of my way for is curiosity. I feel like that's the best skill someone can have. If someone is curious, they can learn anything in this modern day and age. Like, you can learn security, you can learn any new language, you can learn literally anything if you're curious. If you're not curious, you can't learn anything, like no matter how easy it is. So apart from, yeah, obviously we look for the skill set we need for that role, but the biggest differentiator for me in hiring, or the skill I look for, is how curious is someone. Like, how like oftentimes this, well, like I give some puzzles or questions that are not relevant to the hiring, but are exciting problems, at least for me, in the engineering role. If I get like just responses where people are confused what's happening, or they are bored, or something like that, then it's a sign like their mind is not curious about it. But if like if they feel like, oh, this is so different, it's curious, like, why are you even asking me this, or we should work on it. Like, a lot of people just jump into it straight, like it's a nice problem, like, why we haven't thought about this ever, and they just go from there, even though it's not related to anything they're doing. Like, I might ask a business question in a tech interview, like a finance question, whatever, it doesn't matter. But that tells me like how curious someone is, and that's like one of the core skills I look for.
That's really cool. I've never heard that before, asking like a finance question in a tech interview. That's very
It
cool.
works, at least in my experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, for your engineering team, I guess in terms of if somebody wanted to be in a role like yours someday, how would you advise that person in terms of their career path or what they should be doing or thinking about in order to become, the CTO of a large crypto company, blockchain focused crypto company someday?
Yeah, there are, in my opinion, I think two broad paths for career development. One is either you become the best expert in a niche thing, and then you are like the best person for solving that particular problem. Then obviously you are said you will like whoever has that problem will want you, and that's your expertise. That's the only thing you care about. You keep making it better, and so on. Obviously, you can expand a little bit, but still just like niche specialty. The other is more generalist role where that's the path I took, where like I am good at many things, but I'm not the best expert in any of them. Like in my company, I would say. So, but being having that breadth of knowledge with relatively good insights into everything allows me to have the holistic picture, the bigger picture, and helps me bring everything together. So that goes into a more leadership slash managerial role. The other thing needed for it is people skills. That's one of my weakest suit, to be honest. Like I'm not the best people's person. I'm better with machines, but that's something like yeah, I've been working on and improving. So yeah, when those things come together, that's where I think you have the strongest leaders, strongest CTOs, and so on.
Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, being a generalist, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty deep in a lot of areas. I mean, I used to read your hack write-ups, and you would be one of the first or one of the most in-depth on a hack write-up. What are the, what are the areas that you would say you are a generalist in? Like, obviously, I would say you're pretty deep on the security side. You're probably very deep on the development side as well if you were learning basic at 6 years old. What are some of the other areas? Like you just mentioned finance questions. Like, did you somehow build some competency in finance? And if so, how did you build those competencies in those other areas?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, I mean, yeah, finance as well, generalist perhaps, but mainly because of DeFi. Like, I've been into DeFi for many years, and it's all the same primitives, like underlying same primitives. So, I've done a lot of like research and thinking there. So yeah, finance is something which I get from a high level. I'm no expert, obviously, but I know all of the terms. I know what's going on. I know what needs to happen when and so on. Um, that's good. I've spent some time on the legal side as well, to be honest. So I know so like even before I ask our legal team, I know when they're going to say no or when they're going to say yes. It's my job to try and ask, but I know when the answer is going to be no. So those sort of things. But more importantly for a CTO, it's around the tech stack. So like I obviously like my strongest languages are Rust, Solidity, C++, actually, TypeScript, and maybe a couple others. Like these are the languages I would say I'm proficient in. I write code day to day and so on. But at the same time, I have experience with like at least a dozen other languages. I've written code in Java, Golang, a bunch other languages. So like if you give me a piece of code, I can read it. Like almost any language, you just give me a piece of code. I've written so many languages. I can read it. I can understand it. I won't be the expert at it, but I can understand what's going on. And that's it applies to a wider set of things about architecture and services as well. Like you give me anything which might be very niche, like if you give me a hospital management system, whatever, like they are storing their confidential health records and so on. I'm no expert in there, but I'm confident at this point that if I see the architecture, I will understand why they are doing something, and I will see the reasoning, and I can even from ground up build an architecture now, which would like without knowing anything about the hospitality region or like medical space, I can build an architecture would be like 90% similar to what they have. just because all of the primitives are still the same. Like if you have confidential records, how you store them, access, and like the primitives are always the same. So since I have covered all of these primitives, I can build the I can build anything on top in a very generalist way. Now, I would definitely want to have an expert in that area to get this thing to production. That's why I'm saying like I'm not an expert in either of these, but it helps me actually think about it. Like I'm not at the mercy of like someone else. Like this can happen when like at some point CTOs and other people just can't understand the architecture. They're covering too much like at the people level and leadership level, which honestly, like if you are running a Fortune 500 company makes sense. But for me, I'm still very close to the code. Like every architecture we build, I go through it. I have suggestions. I make improvements, and that's the reason I can do it is because like I just have generalist experience in so many fields.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, maybe you have, would you say you're doing a little bit of like Elon management where you're doing skip level and you're talking directly to the engineer who's working on something and reviewing their code if it's, a really important piece of code, or what's your general style?
So my style is like I 100% trust my direct reports and I want them to trust their engineers. So my thinking is that if I can't trust my direct report to do their job properly, then I have the wrong person. I will replace them. I will find a new person. So that sort of is my style. But that being said, I am like constantly in like looking at the code being pushed out, discussions happening in the engineering channels. I'm talking to the engineers directly as well. I'm throwing my ideas in there. So I want to keep a close connection with everything. But I don't like my thinking is that I would try to never overwrite my directs. Like the way I've divided things is that I have a engineering product owner for every product that we are working. They have ownership of the product itself. They have to think about it from zero to finish of everything around that product, do the cross team, um, like cross functional work as well, all of it. So I usually let them make all of the calls. If I see anything wrong or I have suggestion, I talk to them. But usually it's just me helping. It's usually me unblocking them from doing their jobs and me giving them ideas how to do things better. But at the end, it's them making the calls, driving things forward. I just make sure they are good enough that they can make these calls and drive things forward.
Got it. Interesting. Interesting. And I know maybe we should have talked about this at the beginning. Polygon's obviously made some changes in the last year and is very focused on payments. What are sort of those main areas where you have, I don't know if you called it an engineering manager, but what are the main product areas that you're focused on?
Oh yeah, for sure. So Polygon has evolved a lot in last 1 year, I would say. One, as you said, primarily now we are focused on payments. So the Polygon chain itself is being optimized to handle payments. We are building new products that do payments. We are launching, I hope it has been announced publicly, but Open Money Stack, we are calling
Yeah.
it Polygon OMS. This is essentially um, a set of products, APIs, and dashboards that would let anyone move money from any place to any place. Now, this can be fiat funds from one place of the world, let's say Brazil, to another, let's say India, through the blockchain rails, completely abstracted by the user. They make one call, they get on ramped onto the blockchain, funds transfer on the blockchain, then they get off ramped on the other side. We decide, we handle the FX, everything. So it's just from for the user, just a payment made anywhere. We also have like interoperability, swaps, and cross chain stuff. So you can make a payment from base USDC that you might hold into Polygon USDT that someone else accepts, and again would be seamless. You won't have to do anything. So these sort of things and functionality are what we are building. We recently acquired two companies to help build these out. One being CoinMe, which is regulated in the US to handle all of this regulated money transfer stuff. So we got the licenses from there. It's going to help us tap into the fiat world or traditional world. And then we acquired Sequence, which is one of the best engineering teams in this space. They built out Sequence Wallet, they built out Trails. Trails is one of the best interop solution you would see. And the wallet is Sequence Wallet is like, yeah, from an technical perspective, probably the best wallet in this space that can be offered as like wallet as a service. So all of these things are now coming together under one umbrella of Polygon Open Money Stack, which yeah, would be available to everyone very soon.
Yeah. Awesome. No, it seems super. I mean, I personally love that vision. And I think payments is like one of the basic things that you need to get before people even want to start using DeFi, because if they're not, paying with crypto, then they don't have any money to store or receiving payments in it. Where would you say your technical focus is mainly, or even in your role in general? Obviously, there's security, there's different aspects you're focused on. What does your time break down to right now?
Yeah, for sure. So honestly, like I spend 75% of my time on calls, just organizing thing, yeah, doing strategy. It's mostly around strategy, deciding what to prioritize, what to do next, how to architect things, and so on. Just most of the time on strategy and architecture. Then I still do POCs in my free time and so on, especially now with using AI. I build just small tools for my own efficiency gains and tracking and things like that. That's where rest of my time goes. I do some code reviews and everything, but not as much. It's mostly around strategy and building efficiency tools.
I know some developers personally who would look at 75% of their time being spent on calls, and that would be kind of their nightmare. How do you think about that? And, how is that for you? And then how do you stay on top of coding and research at the same time when you're dealing with all those calls every day?
Yeah, for sure. It is time consuming for sure. But it's also exciting. Like you get to explore so many things. You get to talk to different peoples with different opinion. So you learn a lot for sure. We do have a very strict thinking at Polygon that we should have as minimal calls as possible. So we don't do daily stand-ups. We don't do daily one-on-ones or anything like that. We try to keep them as minimum as possible. I just have these so many, and like it's just, I think the exact level that has these many is because there are so many products we are building. There is such a breadth of things we need to cover. So it takes a lot of time. But otherwise, for most people, they have very specific ownership. Like I said, in the product in my org, there is one EM who owns a single product. Like they are the owner of that product, and they only need to think about that product. So they don't need to do as many calls about other products. But yeah, like for me, it has to be like just to arrange strategy and so on, make sure things are moving properly. Has to be these many calls. Not super fun, but honestly, since for last few months, it has not been as bad because I always have some AI agent working in the background. In fact, like right now, I have something running in the background. It's building an RPC comparison tool. Super fun. We'll check out the results once this is done. But yeah, like I always have something, and on the calls, I can always flip back, see where it is at. So that's something that keeps things light and exciting. But otherwise, yeah, like it's part of the job.
Yeah, makes sense. That's cool. That's impressive. Context switching, if you can be on a call and be checking in on what went wrong with a run. What would you say is your most contrarian or controversial opinion on Web3 security at the moment?
That's an interesting one. So one thing, okay, this I think can be considered contrary, or is that like for most of the newcomers in this space that like without technical background, so like anyone who's just starting out, I do not recommend them to use a self-custodial wallet like MetaMask. I recommend them to use something which is MCP based, like Sequence, for example, or the bunch of others MCP based wallet, or just a fully custodial wallet. You can put it on Coinbase or whatever, if you only want to do trading. That is because self It's just very hard to do self custody. If you know how to do things right, self custody is the safest way to do things, no doubt about that. But the problem is it has so many footholds, like foot guns. There are so many things that can go wrong, that if someone doesn't have any experience with it, they are gonna go wrong at one point or another. So like all of my relatives, when they're asking advice how to get started, and the thing is, like if someone is asking me advice how to create a wallet, they don't know how to create a wallet. So if you tell them installment ask and use that, they're gonna mess up one way or another. So people who need advice about creating wallets and getting started, I just recommend them some centralized exchange or some MCP wallet. So it has higher chance of them not being hacked.
Will you change that approach if you see that AI can like improve the UX of some of these wallets and crypto operations?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just about AI. I would say like wallets are some one place, user facing wallets especially, where we are very lacking behind in terms of UX and security. Like one of the biggest gripes I've had is like, why is the wallet like this small window on your top right of the screen? Like you have such a big screen, just use it. Like when I'm signing something, I want my focus on that thing. I don't care about what's in the background. So yeah, use the space, show full data, analyze the transaction, and so on. There are lots of things that can be done there. And like eventually, I think we will get to a point where the wallet, self custodial wallet UX or MCP wallet UX, will be good enough that it becomes the default onboarding path that I recommend everyone. But for now, it's not there.
Yeah, makes sense. What is next for you and Polygon? What are you most excited about that's coming up in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited about getting the open money stack out. So we just did an internal demo last week, and it's always exciting when you see like things working, when you see an actual dollar moving from one place to another. It's definitely exciting. Getting it out to the public would be like even more fun and exciting, because it's something I'm really looking to get more feedback on from people. It has a much wider target audience than some of the other things we build in Web3. So you would have much more feedback, hopefully. So you can just evolve much faster, or just get better much faster.
Awesome. Anything else? Any other message you want to convey to the audience?
I mean, no real messages, but since we are talking about security again, would just reiterate: don't click on random links, enable 2FA everywhere, use hardware wallets, and you will be good. For payments, use Polygon. We are now doing more like stablecoin transfers than literally any chain, more than Base, more than Solana, more than BNB, more than Ethereum, of course. So yeah, just use Polygon.
That's awesome. Congrats on the progress, and thanks so much for joining today, Mudit.
Thank you for having me.
All right. See you later.